Welcome to the Stratix Podcast, where we talk about mobile technology in business, education, and healthcare. Whether it's new trends, new products, or better ways to do things, our goal is to give you useful information that'll make your organization better. Today we're talking about AI at the edge, making AI real and secure on mobile devices in the enterprise. Here's your host, Stratix Chief Strategy and Solutions Officer, Alex Kalish.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to AI at the Edge. I'm Alex Kalish. I'm the Chief Strategy and Solutions Officer at Stratix. And today we're going to be tackling a conversation that is probably long overdue. AI is certainly not a buzzword. It's everywhere, but sometimes the clarity around it isn't quite as obvious. So for enterprise leaders that have to manage lots of mobile devices and frontline devices, there's a lot of excitement about the potential and the potential use cases, but there's also naturally a little hesitation and a little nerves around the flip side. So we're going to try to cut through a lot of that noise today and talk about what actually works when it comes to AI at the edge and what you need to do underneath it to do it safely and make sure the operational readiness is in place. So I've got a great guest with me today, Mike Burr, who's the Senior Security Advocate for Android Enterprise at Google. Mike, welcome. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, happy to, Alex. Thanks for bringing me on. So again, my name's Mike Burr. I'm the Senior Security Advocate for the Android Enterprise team. I primarily focus working with partners such as yourself and their downstream customers to make sure they understand the best practices for security and what's available to them on the Android platform. I am in a unique situation where I work directly with our product teams. So all the information that I gather in my travels, I do supply that back to product. And that's what ends up making it into the product from a security perspective every year as we move forward and develop new products to add to Android Enterprise.
That's great. Thanks, Mike. So let's jump right in. Let's kick things off, maybe with something a little more foundational. So when enterprise customers come to you and they say AI at the edge, what do they actually mean by that? And where do you find out that they're confused? That term edge gets thrown around a lot. So I want to level set and make sure everyone's operating on the same terminology here.
Yeah, typically when they say AI at the edge in the context of Android or mobile, if you will, is like what are the AI components? What are the AI features that they can either use or not use because of security? They sometimes want to just turn it off, but we'll talk about that, I suppose. Usually at the edge, it's like, what can I use AI for? And then how can I make sure that, when I do use it, that the data doesn't leak, especially if I'm allowing my users to use it for business purposes. They want to make sure that data stays within their organization or in their domain. So typically it's things like, voice to text translation, images, summaries of meeting calls. There's a lot of different capabilities. And then finally, AI applications that have AI built in, and they want to know how they can control that and how they can safeguard those interactions with AI on the mobile devices. So that at the edge is really just at the device level.
Got it. So on the device itself, makes perfect sense. I'm glad we're able to level set on that. And from your perspective, why are enterprises pushing AI closer to the device rather than just keeping everything out in the cloud? Are there advantages to doing that? And on the flip side, are there drawbacks to doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think with the modern power in mobile devices these days, AI can be done locally. So you don't have to worry about like some of the technological drawbacks such as latency and being able to get quick responses from AI. So in particular on Android, we have Gemini Nano, which is a model that's local to the device. It preserves privacy with something called AI Core. So one of the advantages is, again, moving that AI to the edge is everything's done on the device. Now, obviously, there are going to be certain advantages of allowing AI to talk to the cloud, some bigger models that may need to be used. And with Gemini on Android, at least, you can sort of collate that and keep it within your domain. So the admins have control over what AI features are used, and those can touch the cloud. Now, some of the drawbacks, again, as we mentioned this earlier, I don't know if they're drawbacks. I think they're perceptions, and they can be drawbacks if you're not deployed properly. But again, we talk about data leakage. So with Gemini Nano, which is the built-in device AI, or AI on devices, that data stays within the device. It never goes back to the cloud. And this is for simple things like voice to text messaging. Now, you can download different language models so that translation is done on the device. But when you start talking about using models that require more processing, then that's going to have to touch the cloud. But you can secure that and keep that in the cloud and keep it in your domain. So I think that's kind of where we're seeing it.
Got it. That's helpful. And we're going to talk a little bit more about security later, but at a high level, when AI is running on the device, what actually changes from a platform and security standpoint?
Well, nothing really changes other than the fact that the data is running on the device itself. Now, devices need to have, typically they need to have the processing capabilities and the memory, right, available.
Mm-hmm.
But they streamlined it to such a degree that even mid-tier and some low-end devices can still run AI on the device. It just might be a little bit slower. But that's kind of typically what we're seeing as far as on the device itself.
Got it. So it sounds like there's use cases for both having AI at the edge and AI in the cloud. So we're talking about replacing the cloud. It's really, we're putting intelligence where decisions need to happen maybe a little faster.
Exactly. And it really depends, again, on what you're trying to do. And like, for example, if you're trying to do image creation, some of that can be done on device as well. But then when you get into the more advanced models, that again has to go to the cloud for processing.
Okay, great. So we've level set. We know what AI at the edge is now and why it matters. Now maybe let's talk about where enterprise conversations maybe tend to slow down, because they always do. It usually comes down to a few questions. Is it secure? Is it expensive? And how do we actually prove it's worth it and we're getting the return, we're getting the ROI? So in your opinion, which one of those are legitimate and which ones tend to be maybe more misconception than reality?
Well, I think there's a little bit in all of it, right? Let's talk about the models being run on the device. And it comes back to, is it secure? And how can I know that the data doesn't leak out or be used somewhere else? And so on Android, particularly with a work profile or a fully managed device, again, those models can be controlled. So there are APIs in the Android Enterprise framework or the management stack, Android management APIs, that allow you to control certain aspects of the AI. In other words, you can set it up such that it never leaves the device. That's, again, depending on the application and the sort of the model that you're going to use. And then if it does leave the device, you can keep it within the user context. So it's tied to your account. As far as cost goes, Gemini Nano is free. There's no cost to the local device or to the enterprise customer to use it. Now, when you go to the cloud, obviously, depending on what level of Gemini you use, or even if you use other models from different companies, there are going to be costs associated depending on, the word token pops into my mind, where how many queries you're going to do and what resource you're going to use from whatever AI model you're using. For Gemini, I believe it's just an add-on to the Google Workspace domain. Depending, again, there's different levels that give you different LLM models. But again, I think cost comes down to what you're doing. And so I think that's kind of what we see.
Got it. Let's drill into the cost piece and the business value piece maybe a little more. What are the kinds of outcomes that actually are getting executive buy-in? Things like time savings, accuracy improvements, better customer experience, enabling the workforce. Where do those types of conversations land best?
I think it comes back to productivity and things that enhance the productivity for end users. So a lot of times we'll see, models being used, for example, in productivity tools like email suites and documentation suites like, Word or Google Docs or spreadsheets. It's big because it can the AI integrates into these tools, and it can do a lot of analysis very quickly, where it would just take humans an inordinate amount of time to actually do that. So I think it comes down to what we're seeing. A lot of conversations that we're seeing it comes down around productivity and actually being able to use those different AI tools to help the user get their job done more efficiently and more quickly with good, accurate information.
And are there any industries where you're seeing AI at the edge pay off faster than others?
Yeah, I think so. In two phases. So the knowledge worker phase, I think a lot of times, they're using those productivity apps, so it helps them get their work done faster. But where we're seeing a lot of AI is in retail and in healthcare. A lot of those tools that are built, those applications that are built, they're now coming with AI built in, and so that does help get to, like, for example, for doctors, they do text to voice. It's not like the old days where I can't remember the application, was it Dragon or Naturally Speaking, or these tools that they use to sort of record their voice. Now these are all integrated directly into their tools, so that conversations they have with their patients are logged correctly, the data is processed correctly, and it gets better results and better outcomes for the users. And then on the retail side, we're seeing it for all kinds of things, like automatic ordering of products, analysis of inventory, finding things automatically without having to interact with, a particular store agent. So you're seeing it everywhere, really. But those are the two biggest ones.
That's great. Are there any, or can you share any, starter use cases where something been, rolled out and it's gained broader adoption and then it started to really prove out?
Yeah, well, that, sort of like giving out names, there's plenty of use cases. I think we have some on our website at android.com/work. And there are some cases there where security has been used. And when I say security, I know we'll talk a little bit about this as we move forward, but the capabilities that are now built into Android that use AI to sort of help users where they normally wouldn't be able to sort of see phishing attacks. So we're seeing a lot of enterprise customers enable those features at bulk to sort of help prevent phishing attempts or phishing attacks against specific users or groups of users.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's advanced protection capabilities that are turned on for, say, for example, high risk users like bankers, C-level executives, or decision makers. A lot of these features are built in and they're automated, and they allow the users to get notification if something's happening.
Got it. That's a great segue. So maybe let's shift gears and talk security here for a minute. So if AI is making decisions closer to the user since it's at the edge and the device itself is now really part of your security perimeter. So when an enterprise asks you, how do I actually trust this device that's running AI for me? What's your first response?
Yeah, I think the first response is look, we have many different capabilities in Android. We use something called defense in depth or defense in layers. And one of the things I think I shouldn't say most, but a lot of decision makers that I meet with, and even their lieutenants, their influencers, and the people that help them make decisions, there's the fact that all Android devices out of the box now have a root of trust. And what does that really mean? So a root of trust is where everything starts, and that's with a signing certificate. The device starts up in every single process of the boot up process is cryptographically verified. So if a device is compromised through an EMM or a UEM, the admins would know that this particular device may not be secure or there might be a compromise. Mm-hmm. And then AI layers on top of that. So we have something called AI Core, which is part of Gemini Nano on the device that sort of feeds into all these security AI capabilities. Things like phishing detection in messages, scam calls in the phone app. So all these are tied back to that root of trust and making sure that, number one, the device hasn't been compromised at first. So you have to have that level set, knowing that all these devices are not compromised, and we have very strong capabilities for that.
Got it. What are there any security mistakes or misconceptions that you see teams make when they're deploying AI apps to frontline devices?
Yes, I do. I think a lot of times it depends on the use case, right? So a lot of times if there's a particular use case where you don't need AI, they'll leave it on. And so I'm not saying that you should never use it. I'm just saying that if there's a use case, say for example, in a factory, right? And you're just not a factory, but like a shipping or logistics arm of a company where you're just using a device as a single purpose device. And all it does is scan barcodes and is used for shipping and receiving. You may not need AI to help the user. Now, AI can still be on the back end, helping with inventory and shipping and processes, but you may not need it. So if it's still enabled, that's just an attack vector that could potentially be there. So I think a lot of mistakes are made with also opening it up too much or closing it off. So for example, in the not frontline, but like the knowledge workers, you kind of want to let them have some of those AI tools. And I think most enterprise customers that don't look at it or just kind of like put their head in the sand, they're at a disadvantage. And what we're seeing is there's a lot of companies that are adopting AI and deploying AI, and there's a lot of companies that aren't. And what we're seeing is the companies that they're deploying AI and adopting it and learning about it and understanding it and figuring out how to deploy it securely and safely and use it properly. They're going to have an advantage as time goes by because they're going to be able to do more with less. So that's kind of what we're seeing.
Yeah, completely agree with all that.
Yeah.
And AI, the landscape's evolving and the models are constantly being updated. How should you be thinking about model updates, logging, and data handling on the device itself?
Yeah, so updates, we use something called SAFE. That's a secure AI framework, SAIF, and you can Google that or use whatever search engine you want to use. But that's how we do it. And so it's a redacted, obfuscated way of training the model. The training is done on the device. So as it learns, it's done on the device, and then anonymized data is then collected, and it's not PII data. It's only information that doesn't have any PII. Then that gets collated and sent to the Gemini in the cloud. If you allow it to, it doesn't necessarily have to. This is one of those things where you sort of have to understand how to use it. That model is then reapplied to all devices globally. So it learns on device and then goes to the cloud, gets collated, adjusted, and then put back on the devices itself. So it's not really collecting user data or company data.
Got it. And I guess when you start to think about this in a practical use case at scale, with thousands or tens of thousands of devices, what typically breaks or what can go wrong after AI goes live at scale?
Typically, again, it's what can typically break. I don't normally see AI breaking per se. I think it comes down to new features, new APIs to control how AI works. Sometimes admins are busy; they don't notice these things, and they may not read the notices that come through. So there may be changes. Something that was defaulted off now may be defaulted on. So you have to pay attention to those new changes. And unfortunately, sometimes these things can open up a risk if it's defaulted off normally and then you default it on. And sometimes there's features there that may allow you to have more control. So I think that's where things go wrong. It's more of an admin awareness kind of thing. It's not so much that AI is actually breaking applications.
And last question on this topic, just thinking about, if there's any or avoiding any potential disruption to frontline teams when you're talking about, work profiles or isolating applications or policy enforcement. How do you do all that without killing productivity for workers in the field?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think we just approach that with the same under the same umbrella as updating. A lot of these models are updated. They come down with certain updates over the system and through applications, and those could be controlled with Android Enterprise capabilities. And so you don't kill productivity. I'm assuming by when you say that, you don't want updates to go down when there's a busy season.
Exactly.
Right? Like in retail, end of the year, this busy season, you may not want updates to go out. So you have the ability to control not only the device level updates, but also application updates that come from Google Play. So you can redact those, you can delay them, you have time to pressure test those and regression test those on QA devices before they go out to the main users. And then you can deploy them at odd hours of the night, right? Or only when they're docked or when they're connected to power. So there's a lot of things that you can do there to sort of have a strategy to where those applications and those AI capabilities get updated when you're not going to affect the users.
That's great. And maybe one more angle here before we close this out that I want to get your take on. How does connectivity factor in here? And does connectivity security factor in terms of device trust? Or is there, maybe an underappreciated part of the equation that we should talk about?
Yeah, I think sometimes just, look, the main thing is we can protect the data when it's on the device. We have strong protections. And, there's NIAP certified encryption that's on all Android devices out of the box. Well, I shouldn't say all. That's a pretty strong word. But most devices you can use in the business that have a NIAP certification or a certificate from NIST, they're using encryption that's government grade. And I think we can protect the data when it's on the device. The problem is when the data leaves the device. So you want to make sure you're using proper network protocols. And a lot of times apps can force SSL communication, and they can use certificates to secure that communication, whether it's encrypting the communications traffic and or the authentication in the back end. And then you want to make sure that you're using two-factor authentication. But when it comes to AI, again, it's that data is secured. It uses proper channels to make sure it communicates back and forth. But again, it does come back to the application layer. So the developers that we're sort of helping through the Play system, we are making sure they're using the proper SSL tokens and encryption capabilities, make sure that they're using the correct protocols to actually communicate securely.
That's great. So I'm going to put you on the spot here, Mike, and want to close this out with maybe some rapid fire questions here. Let's talk about, one mistake that may slow AI adoption more than it should.
Not paying attention, not understanding it, not learning it, and just saying, "Oh, I don't trust it, so I'm going to put it over here," and then things are still working. You might get left behind. We see that a lot.
How about a security control that every company or enterprise needs to be aware of that's going to pay off immediately?
I would say there's one of them is remote attestation or attestation services. This is where you connect your EMM or UMM to your fleet of devices, and it uses that root of trust I mentioned earlier, so that a device is if it's compromised in any way or the boot process is compromised, you'll actually note that, and you'll be able to mitigate that by blocking access for that particular device, and or even as going as far as wiping it, depending on the type of use case that it is. And you can prevent the users from actually connecting to resources in your organization based on the status of that device.
And lots of fear and maybe some misconceptions about this next one, but AI at the edge, replacing people, is that a myth or is that a fact?
I think at this point, it depends on what camp you live in. I think on the phone side, I don't think it's replacing anybody just yet. I think it really augments and helps users, like I mentioned earlier. A lot of the tools there are designed not to replace the work you're doing, but to augment and help you make more efficient time of and use of the applications and getting that data into the system and getting analytics back out. So I don't think, at least on the mobile side, I don't see it replacing people just yet. Of course, I don't have a crystal ball, so who knows?
Sure. And last one here, maybe one word to describe where you think enterprise AI maturity is today.
Infancy. I think it's still growing. I think there's a lot to learn. There's, with the modern AI growth, there's new features that come out, constantly. And give a good example is the Pixel devices. There's a lot of AI drops that come every month or every quarter to those devices that get added. And a lot of them are around security. Like I mentioned earlier, is the updating the models around protecting against phishing and messages. Like, for example, if users might get texted a message with a link in it from somebody they might even know or being impersonated. And before the user even clicks on that link, the AI will actually look at that link and know if it's a bad link or not, or if it's susceptible or not private, right? So, and they will notify the user. So there's a lot of those kind of things that get dropped all the time.
And it's incredible to think that we're still in the infancy phase of this with just all the capabilities that it's already unlocked for workers in terms of productivity, just where it can actually go into the future. It's amazing to think about. Well, thanks, Mike. This has been super helpful, really incredibly informative. Exactly the kind of practical conversation I think all enterprise leaders want to hear and listen to. And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us at AI at the Edge, and we'll see you next episode.
Thanks for listening to this Stratix podcast. If you liked what you heard today, please share it and visit stratixcorp.com/podcast to subscribe so you never miss an episode.